Hey, you guys. So it's story time. I have a story that you guys need to hear. That's some good stuff. This is true, even though it may sound far fetched. Okay, so I got to read this to you guys. Okay, bear with me, stick with me. You're gonna be like, "Dang, that was juicy," right? So this is the birth of this baby named Samson, right? So again, we're gonna start there. So we're kind of starting midpoint here. Again, the Israelites, they did evil in the eyes of the Lord. So the Lord delivered them into the hands of the Philistines for 40 years. So basically, because the Israelites didn't follow God's commands, he went ahead, he stood back and let the Philistines enslave them, basically. So a certain man, or be over them. So a certain man of Zorah named Manoah from the clan of the Danites had a wife who was sterile and remained childless. So this is your normal woman out here that is sterile, they can't have children. So this was even happening back in the day, right? So there's nothing new. This has been going on for ages. So the angel of the Lord appeared to her and said, "You are sterile and childless, but you are going to conceive and have a son. Now, see to it that you drink no wine or other fermented drink, and that you do not eat anything unclean." So, if the Lord is telling this girl not to drink wine or anything fermented, so not to drink any alcohol and eat anything unclean, so you want to stay away from pork and stuff like that, maybe we should follow that. Not to say that's going to give you a child, but maybe if you have a little bit of faith and try that, maybe it'll work. Never know. Hey, what harm can it do to try it? Right? So, um, and he says, so don't, he says, so basically don't drink that wine or fermented drinks or eat anything that's unclean, which is like, your shrimp and the bottom dwellers and pork, especially pork. Uh, but he says this to her because and he tells her, because you will conceive and give birth to a son. So he wanted her to be healthy. He's no razor, he tells her. No, this is God telling her, right? No razor may be used on his head, because the boy is to be a Nazarite, set apart to God from birth. And he will begin the deliverance of Israel from the hands of the Philistines. So basically, how, the Lord allowed, because of their evil deeds, he allowed the Philistines to go ahead and capture them. Well, he he is going to give this sterile woman, he's going to help her, bless her to be able to have a child that is going to deliver them from the Philistines who have them, who are over control of them. That's deep right there, ain't it? Go ahead and give you a whooping, but he gonna love you after the fact. I mean, he gonna love you still, but just saying, it's deep. So let's continue this. Okay. So then the woman went to her husband and told him, "A man of God came to me. He looked like an angel of God. Very awesome." That's what she actually says. "I didn't ask him where he came from, and he didn't tell me his name. But he said to me, 'You will conceive and give birth to a son. Now then, drink no wine or other fermented drink, and do not eat anything unclean, because the boy will be a Nazarite of God from birth until the day of his death.' Then Manoah prayed to the Lord, 'O Lord, I beg you, let the man of God you sent to us come again to teach us how to bring up the boy who was to be born.' So God heard Manoah, and the angel of God came again to the woman while she was out in the field. But her husband Manoah was not with her. The woman hurried to tell her husband, 'He's here! He's here! The man who appeared to me the other day.' Manoah got up and followed his wife. You know they was hurrying up. He was trying to see who this is, right? So when he came to the man, he said, 'Are you the one who talked to my wife?' He said, 'I am.' He said, so Manoah asked him, 'When your words are fulfilled, what is it to be the rule for the boy's life and work?' So, life and work. The angel of the Lord answered, 'Your wife must do all that I have told her. She must not eat anything that comes from the grapevine, nor drink nor from the grapevine, so that's wine, right? And stuff like that. Nor drink any wine or other fermented drink, nor eat anything unclean. She must do everything I have commanded her. And Manoah said to the angel of the Lord, we would like you to stay until we prepare a young goat for you. So, back in the day, they would prepare a goat and cook it. I'm assuming cook it and stuff like that as a gift, basically, as a token of their appreciation. Okay? So, the angel of the Lord replied, even though you detain me, I will not eat any of your food. But if you prepare a burnt offering, offer it to the Lord. Now that was beautiful right there. He said, "Don't." The angel said, "Don't give it to me. Give it to God." Now that's called being humble right there. That's some real humbleness. I need to learn some of that. So I need to learn how to think like that, right? When somebody offered me something, I'm like, "Yeah, sure, I'll take it." I need to be like, "No, give it to the Lord." I need to work on that. Work on those skills, okay, Jesus. All right. So Manoah did not realize that it was the angel of the Lord. Then Manoah inquired of the angel of the Lord, what is your name? So that we may honor you when your words come true. He replied, why do you ask my name? It is beyond understanding. Then Manoah took a young goat together with the grain offering and sacrificed it on a rock to the Lord. And the Lord did an amazing thing while Manoah and his wife watched. As the flame blazed up from the altar toward heaven, the angel of the Lord ascended in the flame. So, in other words, while they're cooking this young goat, right? They got the fire going, okay, nice ambiance. The man who's there, Manoah didn't know he was an angel, right? She didn't know he was an angel. The man who was there, who said this prophecy, he literally disappeared and he walked into the flames. Imagine somebody walking into the flames and not getting burned. You waiting for them to catch on fire, right? And they just disappear in the flames. That's deep right there, right? All right, let's keep going. So, I'm telling y'all, man, the Bible was some good stuff. You just can't think of it like the Bible. So when I used to hear the Bible, I used to get sleepy almost immediately. I ain't even gonna play. I would if you have insomnia, open up the Bible. Even if you don't believe, open up the Bible. It will definitely put you to sleep. So that's just some good information right there. Now it's gonna be good. Well, you're gonna get into it. Just read it like a good book, like a book you get from the library, one of your favorite Terry McMillan stories, whatever it is you like to read. Okay. Read it just like a normal book. Don't think about it like, oh, I gotta abide by these rules. Though you should, but that's neither here nor there. Read it. It is a good read. I'm telling you, like, oh man, all this stuff was going on back in the day. They was cray back then. So just imagine how we are now, man. So, I lost my place. Wait a minute. This stuff be getting good. Okay, so again. Okay, and the Lord did an amazing thing while Manoah and his wife watched. As the flame blazed up from the altar toward heaven, the angel of the Lord ascended in the flame. That's just bananas. Seeing this, Manoah and his wife fell with their faces to the ground. When the angel of the Lord did not show himself again to Manoah and his wife, Manoah realized that it was the angel of the Lord. So once he flew up above those flames, it was a wrap. So, we are doomed to die, he said to his wife. We have seen God. Now, you're probably saying, if you haven't really read the word, why would they die? Because they saw God. Because there is a passage in the Bible, don't know where, but I read it, and it says that no man has seen the face of God and lived. So I'm assuming that that's where that comes from. So, because the Bible is a strange thing, some things you might read in the front of the Bible, and it ties into other stories with other people and other portions of the Bible. So, yeah, it's real deep. Okay. And if you don't understand, you pray for understanding. So I'm trying to give you my understanding as I'm reading this, okay? Now, I am not a prophet, all right? I am not a licensed, I was going to say cosmetologist. That's not what I'm looking for. Though I do have a hair appointment coming up. But I am not a licensed priest or anything, or an evangelist or anything of that nature. I do love the Lord, though. But I am none of those licensed people. So this is my interpretation, Alicia's interpretation of the word. Okay? All right, let's get back into it. All right. So, okay. So he goes, we're doomed to die. He said to his wife, we've seen God. But his wife answered, if the Lord had meant to kill us, he would not have accepted a burnt offering and grain offerings from our hands, nor shown us all these things, or now told us this. She's like, babe, get it together. And then the woman gave birth to a boy and named him Samson. He grew, and the Lord blessed him. And the Spirit of the Lord began to stir him while he was in Mahane Dan. So I'm assuming this is a city or something. Between Zorah and Eshtal. So yeah, it's a city. Now, I might not be pronouncing these names right because they are very catchy, okay? Not catchy enough for me. All right. So we skip all the way to Samson being grown because that's how the Bible does it. And it says Samson's marriage. So it's now going to tell us about his marriage, right? So Samson went down to Timnah, which is some country city, something, and saw there a young Philistine woman. When he returned, he said to his father and mother, I have seen a Philistine woman in Timnah. Now get her for me as my wife. Can you imagine your son telling you to get somebody for her as a wife? Well, you go get her yourself, right? Not back in these days. His father and mother replied, but I guess maybe not for a baby who's been blessed by God. You're going to go ahead and get that. Okay, so I take that back, yeah. If I would have seen all that happen, I would have went and got that one too. Girl, come on. My son wants you get. Okay, you know what I mean? Okay. His father and mother replied, isn't there an acceptable woman among your relatives or among all our people? They're like, don't bring that Philistine or whatever they call them. Philistine woman over here, okay? Get one of our own black people, you know what I mean? So, of course, they weren't black, but I'm just saying. You know, if I was white, can't we get one of these white girls out here? Why you gotta go mess with the Philistine? Just saying. All right. So, you must go to the, okay, so, isn't there acceptable, his mom's like, isn't there an acceptable woman among your relatives or among all our people? Must you go to the uncircumcised Philistines to get a wife? She's like, what is going on with you, boy? But Samson said to his father, he just kind of ignored his mama. And he went straight to his father and said, get her for me. She's the right one for me. And in parentheses it says, his parents did not know that this was from the Lord, who was seeking an occasion to confront the Philistines. Because remember, Samson's whole purpose is to deliver the Israelites from the Philistines. Okay, so for at that time, because that 40 years they've been oppressed, so I'm sure they had plenty of time to repent about their evil ways. So for at that time they were ruling over Israel, the Philistines were. So Samson went down to Timnah together with his father and mother. Oh, his mom became mother. As they approached, I could just see his mom on the way. Just imagine his mom on the way going to go get this woman. After she said what she said, can't you pick somebody from our own crew? So, you know his mama was in her mind the whole time. She was talking crap, right? Talking straight shit. Okay. So, as they approached the vineyards of Timnah, suddenly a young lion came roaring toward him. The Spirit of the Lord came upon him in power, so that he tore the lion apart with his bare hands, as he might have torn a young goat. But he told neither his father nor his mother what he had done. Then he went down and talked with the woman, and he liked her. Some time later, when he went back to marry her, he turned aside to look at the lion's carcass. In it was a swarm of bees and some honey, which he scooped out with his hands and ate as he went along. So he's eating honey from the carcass of the lion. It's deep right there, okay? Times are different. When he rejoined his parents, he gave them some, and they too ate it. But he did not tell them he had taken the honey from the lion's carcass. Well, you know you would have got plucked beside your head for that one. Now his father went down to see the woman, and Samson made a feast there, as was customary for bridegrooms. When he appeared, he was given 30 companions. So he, girl, I don't know what to say about this. Okay, so he appeared at his wedding, was given 30 companions. Let me tell you a riddle, Samson said to them. If you can give me the answer within 7 days of the feast, I will give you 30 linen garments and 30 sets of clothes. If you can't tell me the answer, you must give me 30 linen garments and 30 sets of clothes. So Samson out there willing and dealing, right? So he got these companions. I was thinking women, but these are men, I believe. So these 30 guys down here, like bridegrooms, okay, part of the groom's party. Well, not really part of his party, but from the girls, Philistinians. You know what I mean? So he out here willing and dealing. Hey, look, I got a riddle for you. If you can get this riddle, I'm going to give you 30 garments and 30 sets of linen. If you don't get the riddle, then you give me the same thing in return. So they said, okay, tell us your riddle. Let's hear it. That's what they said. Let's hear it. He replied, out of the eater, something to eat. Out of the strong, something sweet. For 3 days, they could not give the answer. On the 4th day, they said to Samson's wife, coax your husband into explaining this riddle for us, or we will burn you and your father's household to death. Did you invite us here to rob us? So now they mad at her. Like, wait, you Philistinian. Did you invite us here to rob us, to send your husband to sick him on us to try and get 30 garments and 30 linens? He done came up with this riddle. Now, since they can't figure it out, now they mad now, right? Because they ain't trying to pay him nothing. So then Samson's wife threw herself on him, sobbing, you hate me. You don't really love me. This girl was straight gaming them, right? You've given my people a riddle, but you haven't told me the answer. He said, Samson was like, I haven't even explained it to my father or mother. He replied, so why should I explain it to you? Just like a man, okay? I ain't told my mama or daddy. Why should I tell you? Bitch, get back. No. Woman. She cried the whole 7 days of the feast. So on the 7th day, he finally told her because she continued to press him. That's cold. In the Bible, it says she continued to press him. So pressing, they've been pressing him, stressing out people since the beginning of the days. So she in turn explained the riddle to her people. And guys, forgive me for saying a couple curse words while I'm reading this Bible, okay? I just want you guys to understand this book. Father God, forgive me. Okay, I'll watch that. So before sunset, so he done told her, he was tired of her crap, right? So in turn, he went ahead and explained the riddle to her people. So on the 7th day, he finally told her because she continued to press him. She in turn explained the riddle to her people, right? So before sunset on the 7th day, the men of the town said to him, what is sweeter? They came in acting like they knew, right? What is sweeter than honey? What is stronger than a lion? Right? Samson said to them, if you had not plowed with my heifer, you would not have solved the riddle. Okay? They called their wives heifers back in the day. If you have not plowed with my heifer. So plowing with the heifer is work. So if you had not worked with my wife, you would not have solved my riddle. That was deep right there, plow with my heifer. I'm going to have to say it to somebody one time. They're working with somebody against me. Well, if you had not plowed with this heifer, you wouldn't have knew. I'm just saying. Okay. So then the Spirit of the Lord came upon him in power. He went down to Ashkelon, which is another city, struck down 30 of their men, stripped them of their belongings, and gave their clothes to those who had explained the riddle. So he done went and beat up 30 dudes and took their clothes and gave it to the Philistines, right? So he's mad though. Burning with anger, he went up to his father's house, and Samson's wife was given to the friend who had attended him at the wedding. Now I read that and was like, dang, Samson, you cold, but it's not as it seems. It didn't say Samson gave him. It just said she was given to his friend. Given mean even gave them to her. Okay? So, the next thing says Samson's vengeance on the Philistines. We're almost finished here, guys. So later on, at the time of wheat harvest, Samson took a young goat and went to visit his wife. So he's had time to calm down. He said, let me get my baby a gift. Let me go bring her this little baby goat. Is that a goat? Something like that. Might be a lamb. So he said, I'm going to my wife's room. So he comes in the house. I'm going to my wife's room. But her father would not let him go in. He said, I was so sure you thoroughly hated her that I gave her to your friend. Isn't her younger sister more attractive? Take her instead. How your daddy gonna give you? Her daddy gave her to his friend. Oh, you can have her. Oh, that was some hater stuff right there. Samson said to them, this time I have a right to get even with the Philistines. Philistines. I will really harm them. So he went out and caught 300 foxes and tied them tail to tail in pairs. He then fastened a torch to every pair of tails, lit the torches, and let the foxes loose in the standing grain of the Philistines. He burned up the shocks and standing grain together with the vineyards and olive groves. So he basically went to their farm, let's say, or their olive grove. But let's just say farm. We're thinking this time farms, okay? So he took actual live foxes, right? Tied their tails together, set the dang tails on fire, and then cut them loose. So you know they running wild because they on fire. And they didn't just burned up all of the food for these people, right? So when the Philistines asked, who did this? They were told, Samson, the Timnite's son-in-law, because his wife was given to his friend. So the Philistines went up and burned her and her father to death. So you got to remember, his wife and the father, they were Philistines. So now their people killed them. Samson said to them, but Samson got mad about it. Since you've acted like this, I won't stop until I get my revenge on you. So even though he didn't burn down their crop, he's like, well, since y'all acting like that, since you didn't kill my wife and the father, now I want revenge on you guys, all of y'all. So he attacked them viciously and slaughtered many of them. Then he went down and stayed in a cave in the rock of Edom. The Philistines went up and camped in Judah, spreading out near Lehi. The men of Judah asked, why have you come to fight us? We have come to take Samson prisoner, they answered, to do to him as he did to us. Vengeance is mine, God says. He didn't say that right here. But here we go, people they're taking out their vengeance, their, what's that called? Can't think of the word, not retribution. But either way, we have come to take Samson prisoner, they answered, to do to him as he did to us. Then 3,000 men from Judah went down to the cave in the rock of Edom and said to Samson, don't you realize that the Philistines are rulers over us? What have you done to us? He answered, I merely did to them what they did to me. They said to him, we've come to tie you up and hand you over to the Philistines. Samson said, swear to me that you won't kill me yourselves. Agreed, they answered. We will only tie you up and hand you over to them. We will not kill you. So they bound him with 2 new ropes and led him from the rock. As he approached Lehi, the Philistines came toward him shouting. So just imagine all these men, you burned their crop and stuff. You tied up too? Oh, man. So they came shouting. So you can just hear them. You just imagine the little filthy cuss words that was coming out their mouth. So the Spirit of the Lord came upon him in power. The ropes on his arms became like charred flax, and the bindings drooped from his hands. Finding a fresh jawbone of a donkey, he grabbed it and struck down 1,000 men. That's deep. So they was fighting dirty back then too. Samson like, okay, it's 1,000 of y'all. Okay, watch this. He didn't see, there was a donkey that was killed. The jawbone was sitting there. He didn't pick up that jawbone and went to work, right? So basically he struck down this 1,000 men. Then Samson said, with the donkey's jawbone, I have made donkeys of them. With the donkey's jawbone, I have killed 1,000 men. Samson was a piece of work, right? So when he finished speaking, he threw away the jawbone, and then place and the place was called Ramath Lehi. Because he, oh, they didn't even change the name of the city from Lehi to Ramath Lehi. He didn't rammed it. Oh my goodness. Okay, so because he was very thirsty, he cried out to the Lord, you have given your servant this great victory. Must I now die of thirst and fall into the hands of the uncircumcised? Then God opened up the uncircumcised of the Philistines. So then God opened up the hollow place in Lehi, and water came out of it. When Samson drank, his strength returned, and he was revived. So the spring's name was called En Hakor, and it is still there in Lehi. Samson led Israel for 20 years in the days of the Philistines. So Samson became a leader of Israel. So this is Samson and Delilah, and we're coming to the end. Okay. So one day Samson went to Gaza, where he saw a prostitute. They had prostitutes back then too, y'all. He went in to spend the night with her. The people of Gaza were told, Samson is here. So they all whispered, "Y'all, Samson here. He up in there with that hoe. Y'all, let's get him." So that's kind of what was going on right here, right? So they surrounded the place and lay in wait for him all night at the city gate. Oh, so they was about to do the bamboozling, right? While he was asleep. They made no move during the night, saying, "At dawn, we'll kill him." They'd made a plan. But Samson lay there only until the middle of the night. Then he got up and took hold of the doors of the city gate, together with the two posts, and tore them loose, bar and all. So Samson was very strong, obviously. But of course, because he was of God. He was blessed by God. He lifted them to his shoulders and carried them to the top of the hill that faces Hebron. So just imagine, you see somebody tear down the freaking gates and carry two steel or bronze gates that that it takes 30 of you guys to carry. Who's going to approach this man? Right? Okay, so sometime later, he fell in love with a woman in the valley of Sarik, whose name was Delilah. The scandalous one. She's scandalous too, like the other one. But the other one, she was under pressure, man. They was going to burn her father up. I mean, although they burned him up anyway. But the rulers of the Philistines went to her and said, "See if you can lure him into showing you the secret of his great strength and how we can overpower him, so we may tie him up and subdue him. Each one of us will give you 1,100 shekels of silver." Oh, man. Now they brought the money in there, right? So Delilah said to Samson, cold piece of work. She like, "Give me that change. Tell me the secret of your great strength and how you can be tied up and subdued." See, now Samson should have recognized. If somebody tell you, "Oh, tell me how we can take you down," even if you like him, somebody, you better hear the devil's voice. You better know when it's your enemy. Come on, man. Even if you like him, you better get out of lust and whatever you in. And hello, are you listening, Samson? So Samson answered her, "If anyone ties me with 7 fresh thongs that have not been dried, I'll become as weak as any other man." Then the rulers of the Philistines brought her 7 fresh thongs that had not been dried, and she tied him with them. Cold piece of work. She tied this man up. "Samson, the Philistines are upon you." But he snapped the thongs as easily as a piece of string snaps when it comes close to a flame. So the secret of his strength was not discovered. So she saw he was able to break out of this, and he said it would subdue him. So now she like, "I thought you said this was gonna work." She didn't have the men come out yet, but they was ready to get Samson, but they was hiding. So she got the straight ambush prepared, right? She about to get these shekels of silver. She probably thinking, well, they ain't have cars back then. She was probably like, "Oh shoot, I'm gonna get a horse, have them attach a wagon to it, give me some of those new wood and spokes." Just saying. Then Delilah said to Samson, "You have made a fool of me. You lied to me. Come now, tell me how you can be tied." He said, "If anyone tied," Samson a joke. He was playing with her, right? Samson like, "Hey, look, bro, I ain't married to you. I ain't telling you nothing, but yeah, we're gonna keep playing this game." He said, but he's not knowing she really plotting and scheming, right? He said, "If anyone ties me securely with new ropes that have never been used, I'll become as weak as any other man." So Delilah was like, shoot, let me go get these ropes, right? She hurried up and tied him up with these ropes. Then, with men hidden in the room, she called to him, Samson, the Philistines are upon you. But he snapped the ropes off his arms as if they were threads. So, of course, the men didn't come out yet because he, he didn't snap the ropes. So, but they hidden. They still hidden. So Delilah then said to Samson, until now you've been making a fool of me. Yes, he has. And lying to me. Tell me how you can be tied. He replied, if you weave the 7 braids of my head into the fabric on the loom and tighten it with pin, I'll become as weak as any other man. So while he was sleeping, now she's doing dirt while he's asleep, right? So while he's sleeping, Delilah took the 7 braids of his head, wove them into fabric, and tightened it with the pin. Again she called to him, Samson, the Philistines are upon you. He woke up from his sleep and pulled up the pin in the loom with the fabric. He pulled it all off, right? Then she said to him, how can you say I love you? Oh, she's really doing the waterworks now, right? You can just imagine. How can you say I love you when you won't confide in me? This is the 3rd time you've made a fool of me and haven't told me the secret of your great strength. With such nagging, she prodded him day after day until he was tired to death. It literally says he was tired to death. So you can just imagine how she was trying to get those shekels of silver. Whew, worrisome. So he told her everything. He said, no razor has ever been used on my head. He said, because I have been a Nazarite, set apart of God since birth. If my head were shaved, my strength would leave me, and I would become as weak as any other man. Now that was the truth. When Delilah saw that he had told her everything, she sent word to the rulers of the Philistines. Come back once more. He has told me everything. Dirty, she dirty. So the rulers of the Philistines returned with silver in their hands. Oh, there go her payday. Get it, Delilah girl. Having put him to sleep on her lap. She didn't rock Samson to sleep, right? You can just imagine. Having put him to sleep on her lap, she called a man to shave off the 7 braids of his hair, and so began to subdue him. And his strength left him. His strength was in his hair. Then she remember the Lord in the beginning when he was first born. They said, don't shave his hair. The Lord told them. Then she called, Samson, the Philistines are upon you. She said, let me try it again. He woke up from his sleep and thought, I'll go out as before and shake myself free. But he did not know that the Lord had left him, because that hair has been shaved off. Then the Philistines seized him, gouged out his eyes, and took him down to Gaza. They blinded, they poked this man's eyes out, right? Binding him with bronze shackles, they set him to grinding in the prison. So that's some sort of work. But the hair on his head began to grow again after it had been shaved. So now this is coming to the death of Samson. Now the rulers of the Philistines assembled to offer a great sacrifice to Dagon, their god, to celebrate, saying, our God has delivered Samson, our enemy, into our hands. So they didn't worship our God. They worshiped Dagon, or Dagon, almost like dragon without the R. Right? So when the people saw him, they praised their God, saying, our God has delivered our enemy into our hands, the one who laid waste to our land and multiplied our slain. While they were in high spirits, they shouted, bring out Samson to entertain us. Now they got him out here dancing and stuff with no eyes. That's some cold humiliation there. So they called Samson out of the prison, and he performed for them. And he performed. He was probably like, I'm telling you. Okay, so when they stood him along the pillar, they were probably, damn, Samson, pick up your feet. I can see him. No eyes. Okay. So, while they were in okay, so wait a minute. Okay, so he was performing. So when they stood him among the pillars, Samson said to the servant who held his hand, put me where I can feel the pillars that support the temple so that I may lean against them. Remember, he can't see. They didn't poke the man's eyes out. Now the temple was crowded with men and women. All the rulers of the Philistines were there, and on the roof were about 3,000 men and women watching Samson perform. So just imagine, they up there laughing. They probably throwing stuff at him. Ain't no telling. He can burn down their stuff too. And they done captured and poked his eyes out. Oh, now you can't, and he can't see him now? Oh, yeah, they was doing the most. So then Samson prayed to the Lord. O sovereign Lord, remember me. O God, please strengthen me just once more, and let me with one blow get revenge on the Philistines for my 2 eyes. Then Samson reached towards the 2 central pillars on which the temple stood. Bracing himself against them, his right hand on the one and his left hand on the other, Samson said, he's praying to God right now, let me die with the Philistines. Then he pushed with all his might, and down came the temple on the rulers and all the people in it. Thus he killed many more when he died than when he lived. Then his brothers and his father's whole family went down to get him. They brought him back and buried him between Zorah and Eshtal in the tomb of Manoah, his father. He had led Israel 20 years. That is the story of Samson. You can find that story in the book of Judges, just like the judge on a bench, in the book of Judges in the Bible. I do have the I have the New International Version right here. So there's different versions of the Bible. Some of them have been kind of translated for you so that it's not so difficult to understand. But man, y'all, I read that this morning. I was just, sometimes I'm like, let me read the Bible. Like the Lord says, show yourself approved. He says, man cannot live off of bread alone, that they must read the word. So that is the word right there. So you can learn from that, because I did learn from reading that, not to make assumptions, because there were certain parts were like when they said that they had given like the bridegrooms, but before they even said the bridegrooms part, and they said they had given Samson 30 companions, I immediately thought they had brought 30 women to him when he was about to get married, but it wasn't. There were other men, Philistinian men. So I do learn from reading, and I take notes and stuff like that in my own Bible. Now I don't do it often, but I did read that today, and I felt like, let me share this story, because that was a good dang story. Like, I pictured that whole thing in my head. So when y'all reading, y'all got to picture this stuff in your mind. You got to see it like it's happening. You know what I mean? Then it's like, ooh. So I hope you guys enjoyed that story, and I will come back with another. Let me know if there's any particular stories that you would like for me to go over, and I will narrate them. All right, guys. Take care.